What is a zero-energy building? Most buildings today use a lot of energy to keep the lights on, cool the air, heat water, and power personal devices. Even installing solar systems will not significantly counter the heavy energy load. There are, however, some buildings that strike a balance, or even tip the scales the other way. These are called zero-energy buildings. They manage this feat by being extremely energy efficient, saving 50 to 70% more energy than typical buildings. In these ultra-high performance buildings, the amount of energy used can be completely offset by renewable energy produced on or around the building. When conditions are not suitable for energy generation, the building will draw energy from the electrical grid to meet its needs. When conditions improve, the on-site renewable energy systems will cover the building's energy need and send excess energy back into the grid to make up the balance. Over the course of a year, the building gives back as much energy as it takes. When zero-energy concepts are applied to groups of buildings, the benefits are shared and multiplied within that zero-energy community. These buildings are also more comfortable, more reliable, affordable to build and operate, and better for the environment. While these might seem like buildings of the future, new technologies are constantly emerging that make zero energy easier and easier to achieve today. In fact, there are already hundreds of zero-energy buildings across the US in many different climates. By becoming ultra-efficient and giving back as much energy as they consume, zero-energy buildings will play an important part in creating a more competitive, energy-secure future.
Well, everyone, before that, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Best wishes to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to channel Adyuta Byakta. On this occasion, we from the Adyuta Byakta group would like to convey our project that we have compiled a few days ago. Our project is divided into three parts. For the first part is a presentation of teaching material for net zero energy building, which happened to be held today. And next, the second part is Q&A, question and answer, which if you have any question, please send your question via contact on our poster. And the third part is the closing ceremony and performance from our group. Without further ado, my name is Hanif as the head of this project, and I said Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This activity was officially open. And I say to my friend who have taken the time to participate in our project. Without lingering any longer, let's look at the presentation of the teaching material for net zero energy building. Yes, let's watching at the video.
Slide 3. Net zero building is also not a zero clean energy building, and zero net CEB building or net zero building is a building with zero net energy consumption, which means let the total amount of energy used by the building each year is approximately equal to the amount of renewable energy created on site, or by definition. Although the renewable energy success is rare, as a result, this building contribute less overall greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. In shortness, zero building means that the building as a whole does not consume energy from outside sources, such as the state electricity company (PLN), but rather the building produces its own energy by utilizing the surrounding environment as its energy source. Such as solar or wind power can be concluded a net zero energy building is defined as a building that produces as much energy as it consumes over a year. Slide 4. Auditing what is an energyless building? The energyless building are 1. A building without clean energy can be defined as a building where the total amount of energy used equals the amount of renewable energy created on site. 2. Means to reduce carbon emissions and reduce dependence on fossil fuels. 3. Building that reduce 3. Buildings that produce a surplus of energy throughout the year are called energy surplus building. 4. Over the last 20 years, more than 200 leading projects claiming a clean zero energy balance have been realized around the world with extensive utilized renewable energy sources to earn the ZEB label.
If production exceeds consumption, the building is called a positive energy building. Basically, in applying zero net building, one must pay attention to how to balance the amount of resource used with the number of resource generated, so that the building design will play a very important role in reducing resource consumption as much as possible, so that the load to produce resource becomes lighter. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, the zero net concept consists of three components, namely, teaching net zero water means limiting the consumption of a water source, treating the water and channeling it back to the same source so as not to use up water resource in a certain place. 2. Achieving net zero energy means producing energy from renewable source as much energy as a building needs for 1 year. 3. Achieving net zero waste means reducing, reusing, and repairing used goods and being able to add value to these items so that they do not need to be thrown into the garbage collection. Buildings that consume slightly more energy than they produce are called near zero energy building or ultra low energy house. Traditional buildings consume 40% of the total fossil energy in the US and EU and are significant contributor of greenhouse gas. The principle of net zero energy consumption is seen as a means of reducing carbon emission, of reducing dependence on fossils, and although energies buildings remain uncommon even in development countries, they are increasingly important and popular. Next, I will explain about the things described in the image that we have included. 1. Net plus energy build high performance buildings with renewable energy generation that exceeds their annual needs. The first pictures show that the annual energy consumed is greater than the annual energy produced and exported. 2. Nearly zero energy will high performance buildings with renewable energy generation that meet most of their annual needs. The second figure shows that the annual energy consumed is equal to the annual energy produced and exported. 3. The net zero energy building is a very high performance building with renewable energy generation that meet all its annual needs. Building that create zero carbon emissions and consume zero energy per use. This method is considered the most up-to-date to reduce adverse impact on the environment. Environmentally friendly zero-energy building gets energy from solar and wind power and can operate without a commercial power grid. Meanwhile, conventional building contribute to the greenhouse effect for the environment, as well as consume almost half of total fossil energy. Next, I will explain about the image that we have included on this slide. In this picture, it explains the stability figure between the energy produced and the energy consumed. It must be balanced because renewable energy such as sufficient to meet the energy needs of the building.
Slide A. Further, to achieve zero net energy buildings, you need to take two separate but complementary approaches. 1. Implement energy efficiency measures. A. Replace the lamp in the building uses LED light. B. Press the off button and remove the plug. C. Use public or public transportation. D. Avoid electric vampires namely. Point 1. Laptop 50 watts hour horse. Point 2. 20 watt or horse desktop computer. Point 3. 4 watt or horse modem. Point 4. 1 watt or horse cellphone charger. Point 5. 15 watt or her LCD TV. A. Turn off electronic equipment that is not being used. F. Walk or bike if your way is closed. Number 2. Integrating renewable energy sources. Renewable energy is energy that comes from sustainable natural processes such as solar power, wind power, water current, biological process, and geomechanical. Slide 9. Next is about saving energy. Passive. Passive design is a way of saving energy through passive use of solar energy. That is, without converting solar energy into electrical energy. Active. Active design is a way of saving energy through active utilization of solar energy, namely by converting solar energy into electrical energy so that it can be exported. Slide 10. Next we will discuss about energy efficiency. Passive efficiency is about avoiding unnecessary use of energy. One example of passive energy efficiency is switching conventional lighting to LEDs, which produce the same amount of light but use less energy. Passive energy efficiency is about controlling use energy. This requires two things: continuous monitoring, using power measurement device, and power monitoring software, and active management, including the person responsible for the action plan and following up on the result.
Slide 11. Furthermore, renewable energy sources. This slide explains the renewable energy source, but energy efficiency alone is not enough. You also have to integrate renewable energy sources. In another video, I will explain in more detail the various renewable energy technologies available for use in buildings. For now, be aware that photovoltaics are the main technology today for buildings to achieve their net zero energy goal. Slide 12. Increasing buildings without energy. This slide to explain create a zero energy building. The R step, namely first step, increase or improve energy efficiency. Efficient building construction, efficient system and appliances or equipment, operation and maintenance, and change in user behavior. Second step, address remaining needs with on-site renewable energy generation. This is wind, solar, and hydro energy. Slide 13. Next, I will discuss the image that we have included on the slide. In the picture, there are lighting, heating, cooling, and other household appliances. If these tools use renewable energy, it will turn on, but it will be more efficient and also reduce the negative impact on the environment.
of renewable energy production. Hence, a trade-off method is used to offset the energy that is consumed from a grid through renewable energy production at home to create net zero energy. There are 4 definitions of net zero energy building: net zero site energy, net zero source energy, net zero energy emissions, and net zero energy cost. A net zero site energy building generates the amount of energy which is provided by renewable energy sources that is equal to the amount of energy consumed annually. Energy is generated through 5 major energy by the building. A net zero source energy building generates the same amount of energy as is used annually, including the energy used to transport the energy to the building. These buildings must generate more electricity than the net zero site energy buildings. Don't you think that if we conserve and produce clean energy, our nation will be able to reduce costs of energy production? A net zero energy emission building produces at least as much emission-free renewable energy as it uses from on-site and off-site emission or fossil fuel energy sources. If we save energy and produce energy through emission-free energy resources, we can help the Earth reduce carbon emission. Lastly, a net zero energy cost building receives at least as much annual revenue from the utility for an on-site energy source that is exported to the grid as the amount paid for energy utility costs consumed over the year. Wouldn't net zero energy building capture lots of attention if consumers are able to witness and receive a return on their investments? Houses designed and built to fit the criteria of a net zero energy site, source, and emission building do not necessarily meet the criteria for net zero energy cost buildings. In order to meet the criteria for net zero energy cost buildings, one needs to go beyond the design and construction of the building. One needs to define how to operate the building in an optimal pattern, as well as the understanding of the market. Even if the building is not a net zero energy cost building.
Slide 15. Next we will discuss about net zero site energy. In its most general definition, net zero energy can simply imply that a building produces at least as much energy at the site as it consumes at the site. This does not happen all at once. At certain time of the year, a building will consume more than it produces and vice versa. But measured at 365 consecutive days, if a building generates as much or more of the energy in the promise as the consumes, it achieves zero net energy. And real, especially calls this net zero site energy because the definition only considers energy balance at the site calls. Slide 16. Net is the net zero site energy building. The figure illustration that a building that produces at least as much energy is used at the site. This is the most common usage of the term net zero.
Next, we will discuss about zero clean energy source. What if we expand the definition of net zero set energy to consider all the energy expended to generate and deliver energy to a location from a distant generation point, or such as a power plant, the transmission loss and other inefficiencies inherent in the delivery of utility scale energy generation are enormous. According to the US Department of Energy, more than 60% of the energy expended to generation and deliver electric to a location is lost due to this inefficiency. If energy was produced on the spot, this very real amount of energy would not be was. Therefore, NREL use the term net zero resource energy to expand the net zero term to consider the total amount of energy expended to produce energy and deliver it to buildings. Zero net building energy. An energy lot is a building that produces as much energy as is consumed when compared to the energy used. With this building, there is a lot to be had, and it is like with the regulator that this building has to be a lot to be made that way, but with the right strategies in making it building without energy not only support the desire to reduce the impact on the environment, but also support by money. Tax break as well as energy costs make energy-free building financial feasible. Net zero building energy and energy lot is a building that produces as much.
Slide 19. Building zero clean energy cost. Next up is the net zero energy cost building, which is a building that sells more power to the utility than it buys. Utilities generally charge more than they pay for electricity. By using a building like this and reduce the negative impact on the in environment. One of which is to reduce the greenhouse effect on the environment because it creates zero carbon emissions and consumes zero energy years, not considered in the of the precision definition is the cost equation. Utilities generally charge more for energy than they pay for it. As a result, a net zero site energy building may not equate into a zero balance in terms of energy cost. For this reason, NREL use the term net zero energy cost to describe a building that sells more power to a utility than its purchases. Slide 20. The building produces at least an renewable source of energy consumption from non-renewable. In accordance with the NZIP principle that the principle of the zero energy consumption is seen as a means to reduce carbon emission and reduce dependence on fossils. The energy to be used can also be produced or processed. A building that sells more power to the utility than is it processed. Utilities generally charge more than they pay for power.
Slide 21. I will explain about net zero energy emission. Also missing from the previous definition is a balance of greenhouse gas emissions. NERL uses the term net zero emission to describe a building that generates as much renewable energy as it consumes from non-renewable sources. In other words, buying renewable energy credits to offset non-renewable energy consumption is counted in this definition. Slide 22. The building produces at least a renewable source of energy consumed from non-renewable. In accordance with the NZEB principle that the principle of net zero energy consumption is seen as a means to reduce carbon emission and reduce dependence on fossil. The energy to be used can also be produced or purchased. A building that generates as much renewable energy as it consumes from non-renewable sources. This energy can be produced on site or purchased. Paying renewable energy credit to offset non-renewable energy consumption count. Slide 23. Here, the red line shows the reduction of energy demand and application of AA measure. The gray line shows the conversion from said energy to such energy. And the green line shows the production of renewable energy on site, and here the more the upward indicates, the lower the building energy. And also magnet plus charge. Yes. If red line in the right, that show to building code, low energy building and passive building.
Slide 24. A zero net energy NZEB building. A net zero building is a building with a net of zero energy consumption, which means that the total amount of energy used by the building each year is equal to the amount of renewable energy created on site. 1. Reducing energy consumption. This is the concept of NZB, which is very inclined because this is the axis of NZB, namely the concept of reducing energy. 2. Reduction of greenhouse gases. This is caused by the use of less energy so as to reduce emissions. 3. Reducing dependence of fossil fuels because the fuels that is used continuously will be more and more dependent. The NZEB sparkled the concept to achieve zero fossil fuels. 4. A decrease in pressure drop, a decrease in energy that reduces the drop will also have an impact on reducing the ozone layer. 5. Reduce climate change. The climate will also be more stable because it is decreasing. 6. Protect on everyone to create that will come will a present environment that can make us comfortable and can pass the comfort of the environment to create the next. Slide 25. In this slide, it explains that a building without energy actually a building that also does not need electricity or anything. So the creating of not zero will actually result in saving on these resources. Total energy demand in the building is a sum of thermal and electricity demand. However, many studies focus only on one demand, neglecting the other. This is research by Abel 1994. Many low energy building projects seem to have been based on the idea decrease heat supply at any cost. In some cases, this has resulted in zero energy building, which it is true do not need any heat supply but do instead indirectly need electricity, example to operate the heat pumps included in the system.
There is literature that is seen divided into a number of topics of main importance of discussion of the definition of zero energy building. 1. Energy focus. 2. Energy supply system. 3. Renewable energy option. The following is a review of literature related to zero energy building definition and research project. Their review literature is divided into a number of main important topics for the discussion of zero energy building definition. The off-grid zero energy building does not have any connection to the energy infrastructure, so it does not buy energy from any external source, and the limitation for balancing calculation is inside the building. Zero energy building on grid in the literature also called net zero or grid connection is an energy production building that is connected to one or more energy infrastructure, electric grid, district heating and cooling system, gas pipeline network, biomass and biofuel distribution network. Hence, it is possible to buy and sell energy from or to the utility grid. That is how it is. The energy supply system conform to the definition of the zero energy building, a concept where a building using this zero energy building dome is a complete independent building and can make or generate its own energy. The scientific publication focus either on off-grid zero energy building or on-grid zero energy building. The main difference between those two approaches is that the off-grid zero energy building does not have any connection to the energy infrastructure. Thus, it does not purchase energy from any external resource, and the boundaries for the balance calculation are within the building. A renewable energy option is an energy supply that we can use by supplying this energy, namely with two options. One, on-site supply. Two, supply off-site. In the off-site supply, the building uses the rest available off-site to generate energy on-site or purchase off-site. In a zero energy building definition, it is necessary to define the supply side of the renewable energy source. According to Torcellini et al. 2006, there are two options: on-site supply or off-site supply. Within the on-site supply, authors distinguish building footprint and building site. Within the off-site supply, the building authors use RES, available off-site, to produce energy on-site or purchase off-site.
Net zero is a goal to reach the point where our business operations are in balance with our environment. And in many cases, that requires not taking as much or using resources differently. If a resource cannot be replenished, then we need to seek alternatives and reduce our use. People impact the environment in many ways. The Forest Service focuses net zero efforts on energy, waste, fleet, and water. Everything we do in the Forest Service requires energy, but we can choose to use more renewable sources, such as solar, wind, biomass, and water, and saving energy where we can. Forest Service operations generate waste, but consumption can be mitigated. The Forest Service reduces waste by composting and recycling, but we can always do more. We can rethink how we use resources, reducing the excess and reusing materials where we can. We achieve net zero water by xeriscaping, repairing leaks, and reusing water on site while not impacting the watershed we work in. Driving vehicles in the Forest Service uses a lot of energy. This tips the balance away from net zero. But we can slow the pace of energy use by carpooling, using public transportation, biking, and selecting more efficient vehicles for work trips. How can you help? We can all contribute to net zero every day. Whether you are working to balance the scales or tip them, your actions are crucial to sustain our forests and grasslands for future generations. Log on to our website and start to balance the scale.
Slide 13. According to the Environmental Protective Agency (EPA), the zero net concept consists of three components, namely: Point 1. Reaching net zero water means limiting the consumption of a water source, treating the water, and curling it back to the same source so as not to use up water resources in a certain place. Point 2. Achieving net zero energy means producing energy from renewable sources, as much energy as a building needs for 1 year. Point 3. Achieving net zero waste means reducing, reusing, and repairing used goods, and being able to add value to these items so that they do not need to be thrown into the garbage collection. Slide 13.1. Reaching net zero water means limiting the consumption of a water source, treating the water and channeling it back to the same source so as not to use up water resources in the certain place. In this case, it is a concept of maintaining and limiting the use of resources so that they do not run out but are always filled and maintained. This can be done by targeting the water resource use, for example by targeting net zero by 2050. Effort must be made to really support this activity, which means limiting the consumption of a water source, treating the water, and channeling it back to the same source so as not to use up water resources in a certain place.
We achieve net zero water by xeriscaping, repairing leaks, and reusing water on site while not impacting the watershed we work in.
Slide 33. In this slide, explain to net zero energy, and which means producing energy from renewable sources, as much energy as a building needs for 1 year. Yes, this is explained to achieving net zero energy means producing energy from renewable sources, as much energy as a building needs for 1 year. This means that we have to produce the newest energy in order to cover the energy needed for the building. So there is no less effort in reaching these resources.
Everything we do in the Forest Service requires energy, but we can choose to use more renewable sources, such as solar, wind, biomass, and water, and saving energy where we can.
Slide 35. Achieving net zero works means reducing, reusing, and repairing used goods and being able to add value these items so that they do not need to be thrown into the garbage collection. This is an active to recycle of reuse. We thought it be done so that there is no accumulation is worse, and the impact to that we can also produce something from wasted. Could that become a selling point? Which means reducing, repairing, and repairing used goods and can add value to these items so that they do not need to be thrown into the garbage collection.
Service operations generate waste, but consumption can be mitigated. The Forest Service reduces waste by composting and recycling, but we can always do more. We can rethink how we use resources, reducing the excess and reusing materials where we can. We can all contribute to net zero every day. Whether you are working to balance the scales or tip them, your actions are crucial to sustain our forests and grasslands for future generations.